Hello and welcome. You're watching UATV News with me, Ksenia Buhai. First at this hour, to provide immediate access to illegally detained Ukrainian citizens for the Red Cross International Committee, the head of the Ukrainian delegation to the Trilateral Contact Group, Leonid Kravchuk, demanded this from representatives of the temporarily occupied territories of the Donetsk and Luhansk regions. Leonid Kravchuk stressed out that the agreement of the Normandy 4 leaders regarding full access to detainees has been fulfilled by Ukraine unilaterally. Meanwhile, the representatives of the temporarily occupied territories of the Donetsk and Luhansk regions, as well as Russian Federation, ignore the agreements. Leonid Kravchuk also insists on providing access to the secret isolation jail in the city of Donetsk. The Rapid Trident 2020 multinational military drills kicked off in Lviv region. More than 4,000 troops from 9 participating countries will practice defense tactics as well as counter-terrorism operations. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky also took part in the opening ceremony.
My priority is modern, best-equipped and capable Ukrainian armed forces. It is Ukrainian army that can guarantee security, peace and free development of independent Ukraine. We have to achieve compatibility of the armed forces of Ukraine with the relevant structures of the alliance states as soon as possible. In addition, we need to accelerate reforms that will let us get an invitation and join the NATO membership action plan.
Thousands of Jewish pilgrims stuck at Belarus-Ukraine border. They are still looking forward to get permission to enter Ukraine, despite the quarantine ban and the calls from Ukrainian authorities to return home.
The State Border Guard Service of Ukraine has enough force and funds to guarantee proper state border security. We are cooperating and coordinating with units of the National Police and the National Guard of Ukraine. Previously, 7 checkpoints operated on the Ukrainian-Belarusian border. Now only 6 of them left in service.
Ukraine once again sees the worst record in COVID-19 indices. 3,584 cases have been registered in Ukraine over the past day. 60 people died. 534 got hospitalized. Ukraine is increasing the number of hospital beds for patients with COVID-19. In addition, Health Minister told how infected citizens will vote in local elections.
If a person has an active COVID-19 infection, he or she must apply to the Territorial Election Commission by 8 p.m. on last Friday before the election day, with a statement that he or she needs to vote at home due to the coronavirus disease.
Ukrainian local elections on October 25th will bring in certain innovations. These have been made due to the COVID-19 pandemic and more for both voters and candidates. A number of amendments to current legislation have been implemented. Our correspondent got the details.
29 violations have been recorded by the National Police of Ukraine since the beginning of the election campaign.
There are those directly associated with the violation of the electoral legislation. In particular, it regards damaging or stealing of campaign materials. Regarding other violations, this is submission of incorrect information in the state register of voters, vote buying and hindrances to free elections.
This time, Ukrainians will be able to vote at their place of actual residence for the first time. The Central Election Commission simplified the procedure for changing the electoral address. This right has already been exercised by almost 100,000 citizens. Most of them are internally displaced persons, labor migrants and other persons who, for one reason or another, do not live where they had been registered.
I believe that such changes will gradually expand the participation of citizens in decision-making and increase the level of participation, in particular in local elections, because it is in local elections that we have lower voters turnout. I think 5.5 million people simply did not have the chance to vote in those communities where they live.
The Verkhovna Rada also simplified the registration procedure for candidates. It's no longer necessary to submit a certificate of criminal record to the election commissions.
В чому проблема, з якою ми зіштовхнулися?
It means the state does not have to check each candidate anymore. Previously, every potential candidate, whom we have hundreds of thousands, had to receive this certificate. In addition, given to the technical inconveniences given the number of mediators, and despite the fact that these certificates were declared as free, their cost made from $7 to $35. Quarantine restrictions will also make adjustments to the voting process. Ukrainians will be admitted to the polling stations in limited numbers, and under the condition that they are wearing masks. Even voters with high body temperature can come to the polling stations, but they can vote only in separate polling booths. Members of commissions will have to wear masks, gloves, and protective shields. After each visitor, they will need to disinfect their working place. Self-isolated voters will be able to vote at their place of stay. Reported by Nick Starkov for UATV News.
Belarusian students expelled from universities for participating in protests got the possibility to study in Ukraine. This was announced by former Belarusian presidential candidate Valery Tsepkalo. Dozens of charity foundations offer assistance to protesters. Some pay fines issued to detainees, others financially support those fired for strikes or provide medical aid to injured. Lawyers and psychologists working at such organizations offer protesters in need their assistance as volunteers. Today is the 40th day of mass protests in Belarus.
Our authorities fears activists, so they pressed us for a long time, but we did not give up. Some got fired. I'm being fired today. But I keep my spirits up and I'm not a quitter. I will continue protesting outside the factory. Together we are one. Long life Belarus.
There should have been a photo here, but there is no one to take it. Photo reporters in Belarus have been jailed. Such messages have been displayed in major Belarusian media today. Journalists protest in solidarity with their recently arrested colleagues. A Belarusian court imprisoned 2 photo correspondents for 11 days, accusing them of violating the procedure of mass events organizing. To provide emergency medical response and remove the consequences of the accident, large-scale exercise of civil protection units has been held in the capital. The main objective was to train coordination of actions during an accident. Rescuers, medics, police, the Red Cross and volunteer organizations took part in the drills. Our correspondent was also present there.
Kyiv, Stolichny Highway. On the roadside there lies an upside-down minibus with passengers. Next to it, a fuel truck. According to the legend of the rescue exercise, the truck hit the bus and resulting from fuel spill, a fire breaks out. People in the bus got blocked and there are victims there. The rescue operation starts. Rescuers are the first to respond. Some are putting out the fire, others are evacuating the passengers from the bus. First, through emergency exits, they pull out those who do not need urgent medical assistance. Later, the doctors help the injured. While the ambulances are on their way, the wounded are being transferred to prearranged areas. Victims in critical condition are laid on a red tarpaulin, those suffering minor injuries on a yellow one. Paramedics are working hard to help the injured. Apart from the doctors, volunteers from the Motor Help Public Organization are also present. The two-wheelers often come to assist the emergency crews in large-scale accidents. We've come for a road accident. There were quite a few green victims, those that were not critical, yellow with moderate damage, and several red, meaning those in critical condition. First of all, together with doctors, the Red Cross staffers and the state emergency team, we got the victims out of the bus. Critical patients were immediately taken to hospitals, and the rest of victims are being hospitalized whenever necessary. In such situations, the help of the Red Cross teams is always welcomed. There are rescuers, doctors and psychologists among their staff. We help to provide emergency medical response. We can do it. Now we're helping green victims, those whose injuries are not serious. After the ambulances have taken the injured away, the participants sum up the results. In general, they are satisfied. However, in practice, such level of coordination is hard to achieve. Today we saw all rescue services working as one. Unfortunately, this is not always the case in reality. 50% of people die in ambulances while being transported to clinics. By organizing a road rescue service equipped by both necessary skills and special gear for extracting victims from vehicles, we are going to reduce the number of road accidents victims by half. Every year, about 3,500 people die in road accidents throughout Ukraine. To reduce the number of deaths, the Institute for Traffic Safety has developed a relevant systematic approach. They are confident that in 2 years after its introduction, the amount of road casualties will be cut by half. Reported by Nick Starkov for UATV News.
Heated emotions of fighting on cold ice. After a long break, skaters from all over the country gathered in Kyiv to compete for the Ukrainian Cup medals. The tournament had to take place in April, but due to the lockdown, it was postponed to September. Our correspondent visited Kyiv Ice Arena.
It is plus 25 degrees outside, but here it is cold like in winter. Inside the Ice Palace, a real battle for the first medals of the Cup of Ukraine in ladies single figure skating is taking place. After the short program, Maria Andreychuk from Bila Tserkva was in the lead, but a regrettable fall in a free program moved her to the second place, and the victory went to Taisia Spasivtseva, a 14-year-old athlete from Kharkiv.
My new free program based on the musical Chicago is very cheerful. This is the first time that I performed it in public. Well, it could have been better, but I'm happy. I think it's a good start.
In pair skating competition, only one duet from Dnipro participated, Sofia Galichenko, Artem Darensky. They formed up a pair just this spring, 3 days prior to the quarantine. Training started only in June.
We plan to present the program rather than compete with someone. I believe that in such short time we have made quite a lot of progress, and we plan to expand our programs in difficulty and show this in the future.
At first we trained on the floor and then step by step we got onto the ice. Naturally, at the beginning it was hard, but later it became easier and then we learned more complex elements.
3 months without ice is not the best training option for skaters. Therefore, there was need for a competition, the coaching staff of the Ukrainian national team believe.
We expect to have the World Championships next spring. These will be qualifiers for the upcoming Olympic Games. Therefore, we need to start. We are looking for opportunities to compete at the international tournaments, wherever the quarantine restrictions allow us to participate.
In the nearest future, Ukrainian figure skaters look forward to perform at professional competitions in Germany and Hungary. Everything depends on the epidemic situation in the world. At the Cup of Ukraine, the winners and medalists in men's singles, pairs and ice dance will be determined tomorrow. Olena Didu, Dmitro Borsh, Kyiv, UATV News.
That was our final story this hour. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned, more updates on our official website, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter pages.